yesterday we had a very important meeting. And after the meeting was over, I came to Jeff. I was like, I want to do Todd Robinson tomorrow. He's the one I want to talk about because Todd Robinson just has such a crazy story. I mean, he's listed as an athlete, right, out of Valdosta. I saw him play quarterback, but he's going to play safety for Georgia. So how did Georgia watch this guy play quarterback at Valdosta and go, yeah, that's a safety?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Actually, Josh Crawford, who has ties to that area, initially started recruiting him to play running back for Georgia because he was a dual threat quarterback. I believe he ends up throwing for 2,000 yards and rushing for 1,000 yards his junior year. I don't know if he rushes for 1,000 his senior year. Throws a bunch of touchdowns, but very smart player. Shelton Felton, who's been around the SEC a long time, sent a lot of players to Georgia and to the SEC, basically told the staff in Athens that he was legit. He had the speed, and really what Todd did is he went and worked out for Georgia. He camped for Georgia, and they're like, yeah, he's number one in all these highlights here for Valdosta and Wintersville and Titletown, but he's wearing deuce now. He's number 22 for the Dogs, and you saw him during the early bowl practices, Kaylee, just big. He looks like he's somebody's uncle. He looks like he's very mature, maybe 5 or 6 years older than his actual age, but big, fast, smart, physical. I mean, that's the recipe for a Georgia Dog defender right there. And, you know, he looks the part. Early encouraging signs with Todd Robinson. I don't think he's going to break into the backfield like KJ Bolden did last year, but he's got a bright future, a very bright future in Athens. All those snaps as a quarterback, he's going to know exactly what quarterbacks are thinking on the other side in the back end for Georgia now.
I mean, you just have to pay attention to his high school stats. At Valdosta, again, Titletown, highest classification program. He was not even a quarterback, and it was 4,406 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 2,108 rushing yards, and 23 touchdowns. Other than just the sheer athleticism, which you can tell by the numbers, what is it that he brings to the table that makes him different?
Well, first of all, it's that down south Georgia boy, GA red clay type blood. Listen, everybody can say it's just a think, or it's just a whisper, or it's just kind of a theory. I think players from down south Georgia play with a chip on their shoulder. They just play tough, hard-nosed football. It was kind of in their blood. I think Todd has a lot of those qualities, and it's funny the way rosters are going to get these days, Kaylee. You might say, hey, Georgia, why don't you throw him there in the red zone, man? You have a great red zone weapon right there. He could run the RPO stuff. He could definitely sling that thing, as we saw in the Georgia's highest levels of classification. So this is a thing where I think you look at every player and you've got to say maximum roster value. What else can he do for us? Could he be a running back if safety gets logged down with other players? Maybe. Could he play some red zone quarterback? Maybe. Can he be a safety? Yes. Can he be a star? Georgia looks at him as the ideal star type, the guy that can play the star for Georgia in the SEC. Really physical, really smart, wanted to be a Dog. There was not a lot of foolishness with this recruitment. Kaylee, once Georgia offered him, and they offered him early on, and they made him a priority. I remember he was at G-Day. I remember it was like just the look of his face just a year ago when he's in Athens and he's at G-Day. I was like, it's not going to take long for him to decide to become a Dog. And I believe he committed, not in July, but he committed, I believe, June 10th, second week of June. So he didn't need to take a lot of officials. Listen, Shelton Felton, head coach at Valdosta, he'd been a position coach in the SEC. He tells me, this guy's the real deal. And Felton's one of those guys when he told me a story once where Felton's first years, remember he took over for Rush Probst as the interim coach, and after the end of his first season, he said, he looked at Todd and he's like, man, you might want us to do other things, but you're going to be my quarterback. You're going to be my quarterback. We're going to get this thing done. We're going to turn it around. We're going to keep this program going. And that's exactly what Todd Robinson did. In my opinion, a story like that, Todd Robinson's a guy you can build a room around in college.
Well, I think that you bring up an interesting point, because that's where my mind goes too is, I mean, when Malachi Starks came into Georgia, he came in as a linebacker and they made him into a great safety. And for someone like Todd Robinson, who has so much athleticism, he could come in as a safety, but maybe that's not where he ends up, or, you know, they use him for special things. So it's nice to know that Georgia even has that option. But feel like this is someone who's really going to benefit from learning from someone like KJ Bolden, who also has that same sort of athleticism.
It was funny, Kaylee, because you saw him in the Sugar Bowl practices. We saw him when they were doing yoga in New Orleans, but we also saw him that one time in Athens, and he looked like a guy that had already been there a year or two. Just his build, the way he moved. He was very attentive. He looked like he had already gotten full briefing about what it takes to be a dog. And I just think those versatile, great football players are what Kirby Smart loves. I mean, listen, Kirby, it's almost perfect when Kirby can get a safety type that can play some nickel, maybe play some corner. But, oh yeah, he played a lot of offense for one of the biggest high school programs in the state of Georgia, in the Southeast still. And he knows all about, like, having the game on your shoulders. He knows all about, like, so many stories. Like, they would be down considerable touchdowns, and Shelton would tell me about Todd. He'd be like, Coach, we got this. Don't worry about it. We got it. And he would fix it. They would fix it. You know, he would just lead them back from 21 points down, 14 points down. He's like, Coach, you don't have to worry about this. We're going to win this football game. And then he does it. That sort of athletic confidence, kids would call it swag. I think Todd Robinson has a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to cover him because he's not the 5-star, maybe the flashiest guy, but perhaps the most interesting and brings something to the table that I don't know if anybody else in the 2025 class has. So that is our next generation on Todd Robinson.
Also, you know, it's a nice little story, but top 5 athletes still, top 150 players. It's not like Georgia found this guy that nobody else wanted. I mean, this was a legitimate national prospect as well in Todd Robinson.